team via secure video teleconference. The President gave the okay to move ahead. At approximately 7:40:59, Tomahawk missiles were launched from Navy destroyers in the Eastern Mediterranean. 1940 Eastern. From Navy destroyers in the Eastern Mediterranean. All 59 hit their target. At 8:30, notification of foreign leaders and congressional leadership began. The Vice President called several congressional leaders and began calling some foreign leaders. The Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, National Security Advisor, and others were also involved in making some of those phone calls to both heads of government, defense ministers, and congressional leaders. Around 8:30, 8:40, first impacts began on the ground. The President informed President Xi that strikes were occurring as their dinner concluded. All along, the National Security Team continued to monitor the event and the situations. After dinner, the President went back down to the secure room where he was briefed by the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and others were present via a secure video teleconference in the Situation Room. The Secretary of Defense was on a secure line video teleconference, as well as the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Several of the members were convened in the Situation Room in Washington, D.C. The President was updated on the effectiveness, was informed that battle damage assessment would take a few hours, but that initial results were extremely positive. He asked about reaction from the world community as well as congressional leaders, and was informed that there was fairly unanimous praise for the decision and the action that the President took. So that's pretty much the tick-tock. Pentagon and the National Security Team continue to provide the President with updates this morning, and as soon as his visit with President Xi, I expect a further update to the President. Hallie.
Sean, can you talk a little bit about the next steps here in Syria? Was this a one-off? Does this change the administration's policies moving forward? What happens from here?
Yeah, I'm not going to get in. I think when you've heard the President talk, he spoke extensively in the Rose Garden the other day with King Abdullah there, that he's not going to telegraph his next move. But I think that this action was very decisive, justified, and proportional to the actions that he felt needed to take. And I think it sent a very strong signal, not just to Syria, but throughout the world.
Let me ask you a follow-up question, though. How does this fit with his America First foreign policy? Is that still his stated position?
Absolutely. I think that his actions were very clear under Article 2 in our nation's national security. There's a very important national security interest in the region, stability, and obviously there's a huge humanitarian component to this. Julie.
When McMaster was briefing last night, he said that the President had been presented with 3 options. Can you be a little more specific about what the 3 options were?
I can't.
Can you talk about the process that the President went through when he got the 3 options, who he consulted with, and then what his recommendation or request to the team was in terms of narrowing them down?
Yeah, again, I'm not going to get into specifics. There's obviously both in terms of what could have been done, but obviously that would telegraph potential future action that I don't want to get into, and a lot of that remains classified. I will say, however, that as I mentioned, both Secretary of Defense Mattis, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Director McMaster, and the rest of the National Security Team, the Vice President, and others were consulted, and that occurred over, starting at Tuesday at 10:30 when the President was made aware of this. He continued to ask questions and ask for options. So this was a very evolving process in which the President was given updates, asked additional questions, given additional options, refined those options until an ultimate decision was made yesterday. Margaret?
Sean, can you just clarify? I think you said that the President informed Xi after the strikes had concluded. Is that accurate?
The exact timeline, the President, as you know, yesterday was having dinner. I think after the dinner concluded, I believe that the impact had been made. I'd have to check the exact timeline, but the impact occurred at around 8:30 last night, Eastern Time. The President informed President Xi as dinner concluded, and he was on his way back to his temporary quarters. So where the exact timeline is, I don't know, but my understanding is that everything had made impact by the time he informed President Xi.
Context, because clearly the President has said that North Korea is of deep concern to
That's
him.
right.
This is military action that he has taken unilaterally. help us crack down on North Korea, we are willing to go ahead with similar actions.
Yeah, I'm going to let, there'll be a readout later today about all of the areas and issues that were discussed, and I think we'll try to get some further, some individuals down to talk about specifics on the topics they were talked. I believe that what the president stated last night was just simply that action had been taken, what he was doing, what had happened, and that he was going to be briefed. I don't think there was any immediate nexus, but I was not present for that conversation.
Sean, just to
Like-
clarify to follow up, HR McMaster said last night, I believe, that there were 2 NSC meetings. I believe you described more meetings than that. How many meetings was the president personally involved in throughout this process?
4 that were 4.
4, okay.
Well, again, remember it started with the PBD. I mean, it depends. Then 5, yeah. If you count the initial PBD, that was at 10:30 on Tuesday.
Okay.
From Syria. Think about that. Russia is supposed to have removed all the chemical weapons from Syria. But obviously, that has not happened, as innocent Syrians continue to be murdered in chemical attacks. Let's think about the possible reasons for Russia's failure. It could be that Russia is knowingly allowing chemical weapons to remain in Syria. It could be that Russia has been incompetent in its efforts to remove the chemical weapons. Or it could be that the Assad regime is playing the Russians for fools, telling them that there are no chemical weapons, all the while stockpiling them on their bases. The world is waiting for the Russian government to act responsibly in Syria. The world is waiting for Russia to reconsider its misplaced alliance with Bashar Assad. The United States will no longer wait for Assad to use something they have not done up until this point. We expect Russia and Iran to hold their ally accountable and abide by the terms of the ceasefire. We expect this council to speak loudly and forcefully when the regime or its allies undermine the political process, and countless of our own resolutions. The United States took a very measured step last night. We are prepared to do more, but we hope that will not be necessary. It is time for all civilized nations to stop the horrors that are taking place in Syria and demand a political solution. Thank you.